I gotta pace my dabs.
So I hit the record button right here because cynical? I don't believe that about you.
Who, me?
Kidding.
No, I had
kidding.
the website thecynicalstoner.com since 2008.
Is it still up and running?
No, but I created it to be like a news aggregator because when I was a bud tender at a dispensary, people were so fucking stupid. And it was like, I don't have time to educate you guys, so I'm going to create a website that links to the right media and things you should know. And like, educate yourself, and if you don't, whatever. I can't waste my time with you anymore.
So that's our total lead-in right there to the Kush Journals podcast.
Right?
Thanks, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Hi, it's John at C Nation, and you are tuned into the Kush Journals. Join me and my occasional guests each weekday as we discuss all things cannabis in the great state of Utah. Hey, it's C Nation John, and I am with Kristen Yoder from a lot of places.
Yep.
But most recently, Soil to the Oil.
Yes. Soiltotheoil.com.
Soiltotheoil.com.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I created the website because I've only been on LinkedIn up until recently, but apparently most people aren't on LinkedIn, so I needed to create a website that I could put all the podcasts that I've done in the past and to list all the companies I've worked with. I put all my recommendations on there, my advisory services, etc. So it's just like a website about me.
So I'm most curious about your advisory services because I know one thing about you, the no BS.
Yeah,
that's
the
no
bullshit
BS.
detector.
That's no BS.
Yes. I scare people.
No, I'm sure you do. You probably scare me, which is why I'm on this side of the table. No, it's not true, actually. You don't scare me, but I want you to know this. I've known of you much longer than you've known of me, and I've admired you from afar, and that's one of the reasons this industry has a lot of BS, doesn't it?
I actually say literally BS is in the word cannabis. It's part of cannabis is BS. You just have to be aware of it. And I find that for most people, everyone wants to get into the cannabis industry. Like, everyone wants to quit their job and get into the weed industry, but they don't realize there's so much bullshit in the industry. I mean, especially if it's a legalized state, then it's not even fun anymore. Then it's just mostly bullshit.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing because I think in the cannabis, the lifestyle, the overall cannabis, there's a couple of kinds of BS. There's the real bullshit that's just people telling lies. And I think there's plenty of that in the cannabis industry. But there's also that stoner kind of, we're just telling war stories.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You could kind of separate the two of those. Do you think the industry's just got a problem with a real BS?
I mean, considering that we're still learning the science behind cannabis, we're still at such an early stage that, I mean, when I was running a dispensary, growers would be like, oh yeah, these pucks, they were kissed by the moon. I'm like, isn't anything grown outside kissed by the moon? Like, are you fucking kidding me? What kind of sales pitch is that? Honestly, the more you try to sell me your flower, the less I trust what you're selling, because good weed speaks for itself. There's all kinds of old wives' tales or old farmers' tales or whatever. That hippie culture has all kinds of weird, stupid bullshit behind it. But the bullshit I'm concerned with is the political and the business bullshit, because that's when you lose money and you get fucked over, and it has a lasting effect on your business, on your life, on your relationships. When you're, I mean, political bullshit alone, regulatory bullshit, it's crazy just trying to be compliant or stick with regulations that are continually changing.
Any of that going on in California?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I think I'm surprised BS isn't part of California, the word, because California is like pure bullshit for the most part. I love it, but...
Of course, right now, I mean, it seems that everything's the bottleneck. I thought that around July 1st, the testing was going to be the bottleneck. It was just another bottlenecks.
No. I think every sector, every bureaucratic section tries to pass blame onto the other sectors.
Sure.
But in the end, the bullshit mostly comes from the politicians not doing their jobs, not being well prepared, not seeing the need and the urgency to get things right. And you know what I think is funny? I had interviewed Alex Traverso, who was the chief of communications for the Bureau of Cannabis Control last year, and he was saying, we recognize that California is literally too big to fail, that it is so important that we get our regulations together and that we learn from these other states. And while I saw California invite Oregon, Washington, Colorado regulators in, they still made the same mistakes. And we are too big to fail, and we are failing, and it is taking people's lives, people's livelihoods. Like, it's no bullshit when you're putting people's entire everything on the line, and they're just in this waiting pattern. Like, oh, well, I think they're going to regulate soon. Like, oh, well, we got this property because it's in a green zone, but they still haven't licensed anyone. 2 years later, you're still paying your lease. And you can't operate. Like, that's crazy, you know?
Do you think that because it was a 20-plus-year-old marketplace already, that has totally played against all of the now regulating this and now bringing it?
I think the biggest problem is that the state decided to give the cities and counties their own choice on whether or not they wanted to regulate the industry, despite the fact that every city and county has an industry already alive that has already been operating. And then for you to say you can regulate it or not, that fucks everything up. Literally. Because now what used to be medical cannabis companies, they're illegal companies now. Now these companies have zero protection when they get robbed, or they're having people steal from them, or their employees are fucking them over, or whatever. They have no protection. At least in the medical gray market, they could have maybe called the cops to protect themselves.
Fair enough.
But now all of these counties are like, no, we're not going to regulate it. Well, guess what you have? You have a black market. Now you have a criminal market. Why wouldn't you regulate it? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so we were in Anaheim a couple of months ago, CBD Expo West.
Yeah.
And at the other Canna Newswire Media Showcase that was going on there. And we were in town for a few days. We did a little shopping. And I can tell you there is no question where we went. It was really a comfortable place for me, but it was a total illegal black market shop. An old jewelry store. It had the glass count just like a jewelry's. $5 dabs in the corner. They got like solar powered calculators. There, no nothing.
Yeah,
and
no taxes.
Well, maybe that too. And I found myself like totally comfortable there. I walked right in and I told Zen, I was like, oh, this is such a black market operation here. They'll be gone in 2 months. But do you think there's a lot of that around California?
Oh, yeah.
We hear.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, but stories grow. You know, these urban legends grow. But we hear there are a lot of illegal, unlicensed.
You can't be licensed if the place you're at doesn't license anybody.
Fair enough.
So what, like 2/3 of the state right now is not licensing cannabis companies. So what, are they all going to stop? No, dude. No, because there are consumers already there that have been shopping in these places. And there are people that rely on these businesses to put food on the table. Themselves, these businesses. So, I mean, of course they're still going to be there. It would be bright if the cities and counties were like, well, we would rather get tax revenue and be able to regulate it and give quality products to people. But no, they don't want to regulate it. So they're going to have a bunch of these like little shops or whatever. And I'll tell you what, dude, and I tell people all the time, I am not paying fucking taxes on weed.
Right.
Okay? I didn't go through grades, and I'm not going to pay 45% on top of retail. No, thank you. So I will go to a black market shop before a fucking recreational shop.
Well, and I'm so comfortable there. I mean, I'm 53 years old. Most of the cannabis transactions I've conducted in my lifetime have been black market.
Exactly.
There was nothing uncomfortable about this. But I want to know your opinion about this. So there are a lot of these companies, and they exist because
they always have
regulation, and because they always have. That's a very fair point. What do you think? Should they just stay the course and stay in business and keep rolling? I mean, we want to support a regulated market.
Look, you can go to jail, but you could go to jail before this too.
Sure.
But now you'll definitely go to jail probably. That's up to you. That's the kind of risk you want to take. It depends. There are some illegal shops that are medical shops, and they do it for their medical patients, because if they shut down, these people that need it for medicine cannot get it, then they're taking a risk that a lot of us took in the first place, which is totally worth it. Then there's like the criminal gangster people that just want to have like a shop to sell all their weed out of.
Right.
They'll always do that. They're always going to be in it for a quick profit. They'll shut down before they get raided, or if they get raided, they'll open up somewhere else.
Right.
The key is make enough money to buy a good lawyer to get you out of it, dude. That's the California way. That's the thing. Like, just because you know, a bunch of idiots voted for legalization doesn't mean the rest of the state is going to all of a sudden shut down and operate legally.
No, of course they're not.
This is California.
Yeah, right.
You know?
So the first time I saw you live and in person was at the Terpenes and Testing World Conference in San Jose. Must have been in April.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You had a stage that you were doing some awesome things with terpenes.
Oh, that was fun.
Wasn't it?
Yes.
And then again at the taco bar. Well, I said it was a taco bar because I stood by that taco maker the whole night there.
Yeah.
You were doing it behind the bar at that after party that was going on.
Oh, no. I was handing out free weed to everyone.
Oh, well.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking that the terpene, you took that over to the bar that night.
Yeah.
First of all, talk about what you were doing at the Terpenes and Testing World Conference, and then talk more about what you're doing now with terpenes.
Sure. So I was the MC for the Battle of the Terpene Alchemists, and it was 3 different terpene companies that were making on stage, doing a live demo, terpene beverages.
Right.
And as with all cannabis events, it was like one company didn't even know where their terpenes were at. It was at some bar. Another company, they thought that the battle would be at a different time, so they had to go get their other stuff. Geez. And then this other dude had already prepared everything, so there wasn't much of a demo to be had. And so I just started cracking jokes and telling everyone about the time I overdosed on a terpene-infused edible and puked all over myself. And then I realized maybe that wasn't the best time to tell people about how you can overdose on terpenes right before we served everyone terpene beverages. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. And in the end, one of the companies got their other stuff. The other guys, they made their drinks at the bar when you had seen
right.
But I was just up there keeping the conversation going, keeping it light. You know, just I am not a scientist. I am just a fan and someone who's worked at a lab and I've worked in every sector, so I do terpene classes myself, and I've learned a lot of things just by asking a ton of questions. So I was posing some of the questions that I came up with, like, if a terpene is a molecule, and a molecule is a molecule, why does it matter if it's natural or synthetic?
Okay.
It's the same thing. And it is the same thing. And then some guys started talking about some scientific stuff I didn't understand. But that's what I love about it. You learn something new every day.
Right.
And then your second part is
Well, no, you just had, I don't want to diminish what it was by calling it a get-together, but you went up to San Francisco, Bay Area, just a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, yeah, to do my terpene class.
There you go.
Yeah, so that was super cool. This one was really special because I had a grower who had brought, I love San Francisco, he literally brought a live plant, flowering plant.
Okay.
To this workspace, and then he had a living branch of cannabis for 5 different high CBD strains, and then he had a jar of the same plant but cured, the dry version, and then he got terpene test results on each one of the strains. So we were able to not only do my terpene class where everyone smells like the plant that terpenes are commonly found in that's not cannabis. Then the individual terpene. Then at the end of it, to bring it all back, you can go smell the cured bud. Then you can smell the live bud. And then you can look at the terpene profile results and be like, oh, okay, because terpenes by themselves do not smell like weed at all.
No, they don't.
lots of vape cartridges that are like, oh, it's OG Kush. It doesn't taste like the strain at all because there's more than just terpenes. There's esters and flavanols and other things in cannabis. So it's the first time I've had a class that had the flower there to really drive it home. And then I ended up smoking some high CBD strain that was really high in myrcene. And myrcene is the most dominant terpene in indica strains. And I do that in quotes because indica and sativa has nothing to do with the effect.
That's a fact.
But there's been studies shown that strains that have been referred to as indica are dominant in myrcene. So it's so true. It's such a stony terpene. It's so cool.
When we think about indica and couch.
Yeah, exactly.
That just stone.
It's the myrcene.
It is. It's really that. It's nature's one of their best sedatives. One of nature's
best sedatives. And what's so cool is like you could eat a mango or drink some mango juice and then get high, and it will increase the absorption of THC.
We have some friends that are very handy in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And they have always paired with mangoes and whatnot for that exact reason.
Yeah, it's so cool. I always tell people, even though we didn't know the reason we always smell weed when we get it in our hand, our nose knows, our olfactory system, it's evolutionary that we are drawn to specific scents and other people aren't because it has a good or a bad effect on us.
So you mentioned that terpenes exist in nature roughly everywhere.
Yeah.
Not just in cannabis. In fact, in the big picture of things, cannabis would be a very small.
Cannabis is just a plant.
At the conference back in April, we were set up right across from a company called Extract Consultants, and they have their terpenes under glass for smelling, and their smells are just terrific. But they're a totally botanical company, not cannabis at all, and I have to say, back in April, that was news to me, actually.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it funny? It's like called aromatherapy, dude. Yeah. It's been around for like ever, and we never thought, oh, okay, well, the essential oils from lavender, etc., have these effects. Why wouldn't we think, oh, the essential oil of cannabis would have an effect? But that's why there's so much bullshit in the industry on both sides. Is we're still learning. Like, we made things up, like indica and sativa, to define the way that things feel.
And scientists have got away from that. They don't call them strains anymore. They call
them
cultivars.
Or
cultivars. Yeah. Everything's a mishmash anyway. It's all a hybrid. There's probably very few landrace strains really in existence now.
Well, I mean, in sativa, that's hemp for the most part, you know? Because sativa and indica are it's a way to classify the appearance of a plant. And a sativa is the tall, skinny, lanky, that's hemp. Yeah. You know, indicas are the resinous, stockier, fatter ones. That's basically the ones we get high off of. Yes, yes.
So your terpenes class, going to be doing more of that?
Always. Yeah, I always do a monthly class in Los Angeles. Okay. But this month, November 29th, I'm doing one in San Diego. I want to do like a terpene roadshow and just take it across the country.
Well, as soon as I saw that on LinkedIn, where no one but Kristen and I are.
Yeah. I mean, where all the good people are, dude.
Right?
Yes.
I instantly came out and said, hey, we want to host you up in Salt Lake City. And that's legit. Scout's honor. Now it's on the record. We definitely want you up in Salt Lake City. It's a little goofy up there, though, because there won't be anybody with any plants or any of that.
There's never been plants at my...
That's super cool that was the case.
What's so interesting, as an advisor, not only do I help people not get fucked over, that's my bullshit detector side, but because I have this terpene side that I know and love, I have this one client that the husband, wife, they have a 2-year-old and the wife is pregnant. They wanted to get into CBD, but after I broke it down, all of the things they would have to deal with, and they had some like sketchy partnership issues and some sketchy investor situation, and I was like, it's all bad, like throw it out, let's start over. But I found out that they had just moved on to a 1-acre property that used to be a farm, and I was like, okay, how about you figure out what zone you're in? They're in zone 9B. That's a Mediterranean environment zone or whatever.
Your growing zone. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, get in the zone. Yeah. Autos. No, I'm kidding. So then I was like, well, why don't you grow essential oil crops? And then we'll just distill the terpenes, and then you can sell them to cannabis companies.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're always like, oh, are they naturally derived? It's like, yeah, actually they're derived at this ranch owned by this family. Like, you know, the story sells just as much as any part of a product.
Absolutely.
So they went to the city council and they're like, yeah, we want to turn our property back into a farm. They're like, you can grow anything but cannabis. And it's like, well, actually, we want to grow lavender. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. My wife has a lavender farm, whatever. So then they're like, okay, we'll set you up with the USDA. The USDA came out, did a survey.
Okay.
I have never had this experience where the government helps you do anything, but the government put together, or the USDA put together a strategy that was like, hey, we can get you money for this, this, this.
Okay.
Subsidies, farmer subsidies.
Right.
They're like, okay, well, you've got these invasive species. We know an agency that can fix them for you, take them out for free, but don't do it because we'll get you paid for that. I'm like, but doesn't the government, like, care how you spend? He's like, no, they don't, dude. So then it's like the National Historical Society recognized that they have this super old eucalyptus tree on their property. So now they're doing like a write-up on the property. The neighbors are like honking because they're excited that the property is getting turned back into a farm. They wake up, they're like, dude, it's so good not to have investors to talk to or like to be worried about. We don't have to worry about bureaucracy. It's a complete opposite situation, so now they're going to start a lavender farm.
And because you got them away from the bullshit.
Exactly, and they can still work with the cannabis industry.
That's so awesome.
And like that's why I tell people, I'm not a consultant, I'm an advisor. The difference is a consultant will help you do whatever you hire them for, whereas an advisor will make sure you're doing the right thing for you in the first place.
Absolutely. So I have a question for you. You just talked about small operators. We like craft.
Yeah.
We like small batch. We like this stuff. In the end, it'll never win out because the Walmarts of the world will get into cannabis. It's inevitable. But will it remain like the heart and soul of the cannabis lifestyle?
It is the heart and soul because we're not the corporate sellout, Canadian mega corporation consolidation situation. This is the people who've been growing cannabis always.
Well, that's just it.
And I mean, unfortunately, now they're going to be doing it illegally. But they've never really been doing it legally anyways.
Yeah, they don't seem to mind.
But everyone's like, oh, but there will always be the craft market. And I'm like, look, bro, not everyone can afford to shop at Whole Foods.
True.
Even though we want to, although we want to support local farmers, we can't afford it. And that's the problem, is to be a small grower, that's more costs. That means you're going to ask for more money for better quality, and people just can't afford that. And that's the sad part.
It's true. We've got a friend who's a dispensary owner in Denver, and I chat with her from time to time. One of the things that she always wants to talk about is shopping for your cannabis like you shop for your food.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be a challenge, and it's never going to get easier as these, quick grow companies, they'll just figure it all out, and none of it'll be organic or clean green or whatever the industry designation is going to be. But I guess there'll always be those operators, though. You'll be able to find them just like you can for your non-GMO foods and all that. They'll still exist.
It's just by buying from them, you're breaking the law.
Yeah, well, boo-hoo.
But hey, dude, it's called the weed industry. Like, if you can't hang with it, then get into CBD. Just kidding.
No, support local. That's your point.
You should.
Support
Absolutely.
Local. You do with your clothing and your schooling and your
It's
food.
just like when I hear people that are like, they want to go out to eat, but they can't afford to tip. Don't go out to eat.
Yeah,
That's just kind of part of it, dude. Like, if you can't afford... But here's the thing. I think there's a major difference between adult use and medical.
Okay.
And I think that when it comes to cultivation costs, you cannot expect every single commercial cultivator to adhere to the most stringent growing
it's not practical.
pesticide, all of that. I think that they need to define medical cannabis. They have the most stringent, highest quality requirements, period.
Right.
When you go to the grocery store, you've got conventional and you've got organic. Medical should be organic. That shit will cost more to grow. That will cost more to buy. Then there should be a medical program where the government pays for some of it or something like that to help the medical patients get it, just like in Israel, where they actually track every grow and all of that and track who gets it and how it works for people. But then they need to have the conventional adult use market not nearly as stringent with pesticides or anything. Because guess what, dude? People are going to buy the weed whether or not there's pesticides on it. We always have. Now we have higher requirements for cannabis than we do our own fruits and vegetables. How is anyone going to be able to afford that except for mega corporations? So I think that there needs to be different requirements for growing for adult use and medical. They should not be put together because it's totally cutting out everybody that cannot afford to grow on this huge scale, super high quality. And I think in the end, if you're an adult use recreational user, you might not be half as consumed by what are the pesticides and other things.
True. You've smoked it your whole life anyway.
Exactly. It should cost less to grow it, and it should cost less to buy it.
We agree 100% with that. I do think that the markets need to be separated. I think for this primary reason, I do think there will come a point where medical cannabis will actually be covered, like by your medical insurance. You'll have a little copay at the pharmacist or anywhere. I agree with you, but until they do that, it can't all be considered medicine because...
Well, it's not treated like medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not giving better prices to patients because it's medicine. I mean, in California, I think in Washington, there was a difference in potency requirements for medical products could go up to 1,000 milligrams in an edible.
Oh, no, that's true. Yeah.
Versus 100 for recreational. California made everything 100.
Right.
There's a big problem with that because medical users can't afford to pay retail price for 100 milligrams when they used to get 1,000 milligrams for the same price without added tax on top of it. For the people that use it medically, they shouldn't have a limited dosage and they shouldn't have sales tax, period. But that's what happens when these states get lazy and they just decide to make it all one
size fits all. Yeah.
And it's not, dude.
It never has.
And if there is a difference between medical and adult use, then we really need to separate that shit out, and bureaucrats need to stop being so lazy. But in the end, states don't legalize cannabis because they care about people. They do it for money.
Oh, no, it's true. I mean, for some of these larger states, the tax revenue, $1 or $2 billion annually, it sounds like a lot of money, but I don't know, what's California's annual budget? $400 billion?
What's even crazier, though, is in Colorado, the tax money from cannabis went towards schools and health, and in California, it goes towards enforcement. All of it goes towards enforcement. It doesn't go towards healthcare. It doesn't go towards schools. It doesn't go to the general fund. It goes to the police. It goes to drug abuse classes for the youth. Just a little bit of it goes towards cleaning up the forest where there are bad grows going on.
Yeah.
But they need the enforcement covered because until you enforce the laws, you are going to have a fledgling black market.
Oh, for sure.
Which you're going to have if you have a crazy tax rate. Therein lies the problem. No one's going to pay taxes, which means you're not going to get money for enforcement, which means you're going to have a black market.
Yeah, no one's going to pay 34%, are they? People might
insane.
Pay sales tax. But yeah, 34.
And then every city adds another tax on.
It is. It's a nickel and dime everywhere you turn.
And then they wonder why they have a fledgling black market. It's because you're fucking charging too much.
Right.
So, I mean, it's all about the money in the end. The money could be the fix if they actually made it a reasonable tax rate.
Oh, it's true. There's nothing wrong with making $1 billion, is there? It's where and how you use it.
Exactly.
That's the big difference.
You got to spread it out, dude.
Well, I agree. And this is a self-funding industry. It ought to.
Yeah.
It ought to fund the things that the industry wants funded.
Exactly.
And
exactly. But this is California, so.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, you're going over the conference, right?
Yeah, I got in yesterday.
Specific, or you just...
I mean, I'm going to go see my bros, the Harvest Direct Enterprises.
Love those guys.
Yeah, man.
I talk to Z all the time.
Yeah,
that
Z and Ahmed.
Is something crazy,
dude,
isn't it?
Z reached out to me when he first quit his job in Washington at the lab 3 years ago. And he had his product, Weed Pills, and we were like, bro, that's not the best name for
pills with a Z.
Yeah, Weed Pills, bro. It's cannabis, first of all. But, yeah, no, I've just been watching them and supporting them, like, ever since they got started. And then just to see them close their fundraising and now launching Lacey. And, like, they got me an exhibitor pass to go see them. I'm, like, one of their most ardent supporters. Because, I mean, dude, for them to be able to decarb flower to come out with an extract that maintains the entire profile, that's fucking amazing.
Well, and I didn't know an awful lot. So I saw them in April while they were at the C Invest.
Yeah, I moderated the panel.
Pitch there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I remember that. And I walked out after they were done presenting, and I called my business partner and I said, dude, they're the winners no matter what.
Yeah.
We got to get in on this. And like 5 seconds later, they had $250,000.
Yeah, dude.
It was no joke. But Z was telling me, how they can preserve that whole plant profile. And I told him, I said, I'm skeptical about this. But understand, I'm a professional idiot. So my skepticism might not matter very much. And he said, no. He said, ask any scientist you want. And this goes back to your myrcene. He said, we check on the myrcene before and after because myrcene is extremely volatile.
Yeah.
And if it's there in the end, like it was there at the beginning, we feel everything else is there because myrcene. So I did ask a couple of scientist friends of mine that happened to be right there. And they said, well, that's a hell of a good way to do it. You'd still want to look at everything, when it's all said and done. But they both told me, both scientist friends said, yep, if we were going to do it, we would be checking on myrcene too because it's so volatile. And if it's there in the end,
I've had many investors reach out to me to bullshit detect them. And I'm like, dude, they are legit. They are legit. And now they're killing it.
Smart, aren't they?
I know,
Holy
dude.
cow,
And they're
it's
cool.
Almost unfair.
They're cool.
Super cool. They're way cool. Every time I run into them, I'm like, yeah, way cool. But we've been a big fan of theirs since then. I follow them. I practically stalk them on the internet.
Yeah.
Every time, they're good self-promoters.
Yeah, totally.
And every time something cool happens, of course, they promote it, and we're always there to
they're great.
To clap for them.
So they're like my main. Awesome. They're my main bros. I'm gonna go see. But I mean, dude. Honestly, I miss the old days when it was at the Rio because everybody in the industry stayed at the Rio.
It's true.
And there were parties on every floor and every room, and everyone you met was in the industry. And I never paid to go to the event. I would just sit in the casino outside. That's where you have the best conversations at the bar when no one's on their sales bullshit, Right. But now it's so fucking big, dude. It's so big, and everyone's spread out, and I'm kind of like, I miss the old days. But, I mean, we're a fledgling industry. Like, I'm glad I'm in an industry that is not dying by any means.
It seems like it's this real old, mature industry, isn't it? But
no.
No. Well...
it might look like it when you see the people at the expo.
Yeah, knowing the names of a lot of these companies, it feels like, we've known Dixie Elixirs for 25 years. Well, no, we haven't. Not that long.
Yeah.
Maybe
like
8
7,
years.
yeah, 7, 8
like
years, yeah.
But it just seems like, but really, bottom line, it is a brand new industry, is it not?
Yeah, and we're going to keep learning new stuff,
Right.
And I will always, as a bullshit detector, have a full plate. Because just with any new industry is a whole bunch of shady ass people playing on, people's ignorance because we don't even know everything. There's always a lot of snake oil salesmen in new industries.
Wherever there's money, that's where they'll be. There's no question about it.
I will always be
busy.
That's
why someone like you is needed. Kristen Yoder, man, this has been no bullshit.
Yeah, I'm so glad we finally got to talk.
Me too. I'm super happy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bet. Kush Journals is a copyrighted broadcast of the South American Gold Corporation. We appreciate your likes and shares on social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.